Well, good morning, wherever you are, and wherever that is. I hope you're having a cup of coffee and you're ready for Cichlids and coffee. Wow. Okay, it's a strong cup of coffee. My wife made it this morning, and she takes no prisoners. High octane. So I should have a little bit of energy here for you. Hopefully, I don't start talking very fast from the caffeine. Give me an audio and video check if you can. I notice we have a whole bunch of mods here. Jerry and John, and it looks like Denny and GP, and we got let me know what the sound and video. Okay, Denny, sound and video good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And other folks are jumping on. I saw somebody from somebody here from Hawaii. Aloha and good morning from Hawaii. FTM Dark Druid. And you, my friend, are a very early riser. I mean, what time is it in Hawaii? I had people in California saying I was starting too early. And I think you're what, 2-3 hours earlier out there? One of my favorite places, a lot of fond memories on the Kaanapali coast. But welcome. And thank you for getting up so early. Let's see who else we got here. Frank, hello, Frank. I know you can't be here for the whole time. You'll catch it in the replay. Hasta luego, amigo. Nos vemos después. Fishman Marcus is trying to nickname me, I think, mentor. And Ant-Man Raider 209. What a crazy name. And happy Halloween to you, too. And hello, Letty. Letty C is here from my old state of California. T1 Dirty. I just love these names. I don't know how you come up with them. And Garcia Aquatics. Hello to you, Garcia Aquatics. And Z-Zip is here. Neil Graysmark is here. Looks like the UK is here. It's funny, we get a lot of folks on from the UK and also from Australia. Those are the two largest foreign contingencies here. And Jonathan Sanchez is here. Hi to you, my friend. And more folks are getting on. And hey, Paul from England. And Amber Key is here. Larry Jackson. Thank you, Larry. I appreciate that. Let's see. Hey, Cat Sailor. Good to see ya. Kusiksinha. Newbie to cichlids. Lovers from India really benefited from Ben's YouTube. Glad you're here. And you've got a lot of videos to catch up on. I think I've got about 600 videos now posted. And anyway, watch the more recent ones. The early ones are kind of funny. And hey, Joe. Joe's here. Sometimes I watch some of the older videos and I go, oh my goodness. You know, I look all green or all red, and the sound is kind of odd, and learning curve, right? All right. Well, let's go ahead and let's see here. Let's go ahead and officially start this live stream. What do you say? If you're new to the channel and you think you get something out of these videos, please be sure to hit that sub and that thumbs up and the notification bell. And I thank you for that. It lets YouTube know that something good's going on, and encourages YouTube to put the channel in front of other fish keepers like you and me. And we like to continue growing. I think we blasted through 40,000. That was amazing. And now I think we're at 40,200, 40,300. So we're growing at a real nice clip. And thank you to all of you who've subscribed. I think we get about 30 to 40% subscribed viewers, and the rest are unsubscribed. So come on, hit that sub button. Why not? What do you got to lose? Don't forget, we offer a 100% money-back guarantee to anyone who's not satisfied. I can never say that without laughing. I don't know why. So big shout out to the channel sponsor, the Cichlids Shack. And thank you to the Cichlids Shack for all they do for the channel. And also a big shout out to all of you who are Patreons. Your Patreons are very appreciated, part of the Garage Gang. and also those who who use my Amazon link to shop on Amazon and who buy things from Teespring. Don't forget, you get 10% off at Teespring using the live stream discount code. All right. So enough commercials, enough paying of the bills. Let's go ahead and get into it here. And today's before I get started here, I just want to do one quick thing. As some of you know, I've been a longtime supporter of Mike and Jack and Pearl, family-owned florist shop who converted over to making plants for aquariums, and they produced all the plants you see in my tanks, and the company is called Elite Cichlids, and they suffered a very serious setback with the loss of Mom, who was a very big part of keeping the business running. And so if you folks can stop by Elite Cichlids, they're going to sell off their inventory over the next month or so. And then that's it. I think they're going to wrap it up. But if you could help them by going to Elite Cichlids and maybe picking up a plant or two, giving them a little love and support, it would be greatly appreciated. They have certainly been good to this channel, to my group on Facebook. They've offered discounts over, and provided plans to give away over time. And anyway, reach out to them. They're just a family-owned business that just hit a very, very difficult, insurmountable, actually, and unreversible problem. So anyway, help them out if you can. All right. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about today's subject, which is kind of something I've touched on in different ways before, but it's one of those things that it's like you're battling. For me, this is for me, and you tell me in the comments if you experience this, but I battle with habit, and but I'm getting better, and because of that, I think my fish are going to be happier. And I'll tell you what I mean. I'll give you an example. Yesterday, this tank behind me here, this is the 55-gallon grow-out tank for some South American cichlids. I've got and some Central American. I've got a Nicaragua in there, Nicaragua cichlid. I've got some green tears, baby green tears. I've got some red-spotted gold severums. I've got some chocolate cichlids from Mexico in there. Anyway, it's just a fun tank, and it's normally I would have done a water change yesterday, and at the same time, the filter that's on the wall of that tank that you can see. Let me give you a close up here. You see the filter that's on the wall of that tank is called an Expert-Matic, and it has it's a combination power head, sponge filter, bubbler. It does all kinds of good stuff. And it was time to clean that filter. And normally I would have done my water change and gone ahead and clean the filter as well. And like every part of me was like, okay, do the water change and clean the filter while you're doing it. And it sort of like it felt like I matured a little bit as a fish keeper by actually not going ahead and doing the water change, by being able to restrain myself from the strong pull and habit that I have of going ahead and doing too much. And that really is the theme of this video, of today's live stream, is doing so much or too much that you end up harming or overstressing the fish. They then become susceptible to disease. They become weak. So if they're subdominant, another fish can really get over on them and perhaps beat them up. If they have, let's say, a dormant or very low level parasite, which a lot of fish carry around, their immune system can become weakened by the stress, and then that parasite can really sort of take off and start to impact the fish in a negative way, and or they can just get a shock from perhaps a momentary spike in ammonia because of an interrupted balance that was in the tank. So I was very, very good. I cleaned the filter, put the filter back in, added a little bit of water conditioner, cleaned the front panel, and that was it. And where normally I would have done so much more. And the fish look great. The fish are happy. The tank looks good. And it's just been sort of a slow process for me, evolving to a point where I can actually restrain myself from these urges that I've talked about in prior videos, where I talked about habits. You know, we become creatures of habit. Every Saturday is water change day. Every other week is filter maintenance day. And just remember that every time you do something in your tank, not even so much disrupting the actual balance, you know, your cycle, your nitrogen, your nitric acid balance, and not so much even disturbing that, but whenever you poke around and move around and do things, move the decor around, things of that nature, you are actually creating stress and a non-optimum situation. I mean, imagine if a giant hand the size of your house all of a sudden started coming towards your head. You'd probably have elevated heart rate. You'd have the flight or flee, syndrome. You'd have your body would be going kind of crazy, and so that's what happens to these fish. They go kind of on high alert. They go kind of crazy, and it's probably it's not good for them to experience that too regularly. I mean, we really don't have a choice. We have to do maintenance on our tanks. So they are going to get frightened. They are going to get shocked. We can certainly move slowly. We can sort of take our time, not rush it. We can do things to make the experience as pleasant as it can be for the fish. But, you know, the less you do, probably at one time, and the less drastic steps that you take, the better for the fish overall. And that's my 2 cents on it. I mean, it's taken me a long time to break out of these habits that are just a little bit. They just pull on me, and it's just kind of hard to break out of it. But what do you think about that? What are your thoughts? Let's take a look at the comments here and see what you think about it. I think it's U122789. Oh my God, I picked up that habit as well. Every time the tank did not look the way I wanted, or it was murky, I had to clean it. And then I noticed that messed up the chemical nature of the. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, and yes, we want to keep our tanks pristine. We want them looking good. We want those fish floating in air, right? And but you know, sometimes it's not that bad just to let it go a little bit. Maybe throw a test strip in there, and see what happens, and see what your readings are, and maybe leave it, let it go a little bit, and but not let it go to the point where your tank becomes polluted. That wouldn't make any sense, right? I mean, again, it's common sense. The back of the shirt that I'm wearing, it says, if you can see it down here. Can you see that? It's a fish keeping. It's a fluid situation, and it is a fluid situation. You have so many moving parts, so many things that affect other things, and the longer I do it, and the more I interact, with filtration and cleaning and adding fish and pulling fish out and all this sort of stuff. It's like always learning, and so definitely, I guess to be, it's an odd mix, because to be successful as a fish keeper, we have to be a little bit obsessive, a little OCD, a little obsessive compulsive, because we got to stay on our maintenance. We have to do the work. And I guess what I'm referring to is I was going too far, doing too much, more than was needed, and I crossed a line where I was just actually annoying the fish. I was actually becoming a problem instead of a solution. You try and help the fish, try and care for the fish. That's what you're doing it for, because you're trying to care for the fish, and with your best intentions, with my best intentions, I end up harming the fish because I'm doing too much. And like you said, the second you see some particles floating around, the second it doesn't look pristine, okay, roll your sleeves up, grab the equipment, get the vacuum, open up the canister filter, and all of a sudden it's you're a hurricane, in their life, in the life of your fish, you're like a hurricane that hits your house. Everything is stirred up, and it's like they're anyway. So, all right, let's see what you have to say. And Z-Zip, I lost an 11-year-old opaline gourami during a water change Monday. Nothing done differently. I guess it was just time. I've had that happen. Where you get that sudden fish loss, sudden fish death. You're not sure why. And if you had them a real long time, there's a chance that it might have been just the end of life. Might have had some borderline disease that just became aggravated by the stress. I mean, there's various things that could be going on. And, we look at these fish and we go, well, wait a minute. It says here on the internet that this fish should live 10 years. When I bought him, he was about 2 years old, but he only lasted 5 years. But, that number that you see at that webpage might be a number they pulled from the wild, might be a number that they pulled from who knows from where, from some place that keeps the fish in 500-gallon tanks with perfect tank mates, perfect pH, and things of that nature. And so is the life expectancy of our fish going to be what it says on paper? Not always. And you have genetic factors. You may have picked up a fish from a vendor who bought a batch of fish that don't live that long. That particular genetic line goes 60 to 70%, and then they sort of die off. One of the problems with buying fully colored up male African cichlids is that to get that kind of size and color, very often it takes several years, and you don't know how many years that fish has been around when you get him. And then when he dies in a year or 18 months or something like that, and you beat yourself up. You just beat yourself up. You're like, oh, what did I do? It's my water's testing fine. where did I fail my fish? And chances are it was just he reached the end of life expectancy for that fish. You had no idea how old he was when you got him. Now, if you have frontosa, I think frontosa is supposed to live, 30 years? If your frontosa are being picked up when they're 2 or 3 inches and they're dying after 2 years or 4 years, there's something very wrong. I mean, your pH is either way off for what they need. The diet is wrong. Something is way off. They're not getting the nutrition, the right balance of minerals are not in the water, and so they're not getting the right mineral combinations. So they're dying off. I mean, a situation like that, I guess you'd have to look a little deeper. So, John Wallace, thank you for sharing that Teespring link. If you use Livestream at Teespring, you do get a 10% discount, and we have T-shirts like this. Fish keeping is a fluid situation, and other good stuff there. So I'm going to jump back in the comments here and see what you folks are talking about. Amber Key, human beings are creatures of habit. Awareness of your habits helps one to adjust to fluid situations like keeping our aquariums clean and healthy. And, Amber, that's very true. Very, very true. And for me, I think what keeps me growing is a constant willingness to challenge what I'm doing and to really, really understand that I don't know what I don't know, and I don't know everything. I'm not a know bestie, know it all. That's not how I roll. So I'm always, and it's not to the point where I'm always second guessing myself, but I'm always willing to step back and take a look, while at the same time sticking with things that have been working. In other words, I don't try to change what's working, because that's bad. You don't want, if something's working, you want to keep doing it usually. At the same time, I'm always willing to step back and go, okay, is there a way of creating a better situation for the fish? And, all right, let's see here. Elizabeth Wagner, I need somewhere to see what my peacocks and haps are. My fish store puts labels that just say peacocks or haps, so I haven't a clue what half of them are. Well, Elizabeth, there are groups out there. Like, you can go to cichlid-forum, cichlid-forum.com, and, kind of poke around in there. That's free. You can also join the American Cichlid Association, the ACA, and have access to their library. You can also go on to Facebook groups like mine, like Ben O apostrophe Cichlid on Facebook, and post a picture or two. I wouldn't post them all at once, but post a picture or two and say, hey, can someone help me with the ID of this fish? And also, watching YouTube videos, very often you can find fish profiles, and you go, oh, wait a minute, that's my fish. That looks like my fish. And truth is that the store that sold you the fish should also be able to give you a better identification than, cichlids, $10 each. You should be able to get, okay, look, I want that one right there. What do you think that is? Now, one of the reasons a lot of these stores are probably reluctant to give you a very specific ID is because their fish is a hybrid. In other words, it's not a pure line. Very often what they have in there is they have a mix. Local breeder brought some in, and when they throw them all in a tank like that, very often you have a lot of hybrids in there, and so they can be absolutely beautiful, but they can't really give you a name because it's, a trout got together with a hawk, and so we got this this troc, whatever. There's no name for it. So, but really, the store that sold them to you, you should be able to take a couple pictures with your phone and go, "Hey, I bought these fish from you a few months ago. Can you tell me what is this?" And my viewpoint on that is, if you think the fish is beautiful and you like the fish, you like the color, it's kind of a good thing to know. But in the total, in the big picture, it probably doesn't really matter that you have the exact name or not, unless you're going to start breeding. If you start breeding, you definitely want to know that, okay, what fish is this and what fish is that, and let's make sure I put fish together that are going to give me a strain that I can say, okay, this is a Malawi hawk or this is a trout, not some mix, right? So I think I missed a super chat, and I am sorry. Let me go back here, and did I miss a super chat? I thought I saw something pop up. There it is. Hey, John. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Judging by the little cartoon there, I think you're giving me coffee money. Is that what that is? Super chats are a way for you to be able to support the channel by doing an on-the-spot donation. U122789, if anyone tells you fish keeping is easy, they are lying to you. Total BS. All right, well, we have somebody honest here in the chat that I spent like 3 hours yesterday in here doing stuff, and messing with things. But yeah, it's time intensive. It depends how far you want to go. I mean, look, you got a 10-gallon betta tank with one betta. It's gonna be pretty easy. A lot of plants. The plants are doing a lot of the work for you. And but if you have a good number of fish, which a lot of you I'm sure do, a couple large tanks, you're gonna have to do the work, as they say. All right, let's see here. Carrie, hi Carrie. Carrie says, I find that I do more water changes in the winter than the summer because we have skylights in the fish room and the lights are on less in the summer. That's interesting. So I'm curious, how would that affect the need for water changes? Are you testing before you do water changes, or is it just because the way the water looks during that time of year? Or I'm assuming you're maintaining a consistent temperature, or somewhat consistent temperature year-round, regardless of what's coming through the skylights. I'm just kind of curious why that would result in more water changes. That's an interesting comment. Let's see here. I'm scrolling through the comments. Some of you are talking about, it looks like blooms and algae. Amber Key, emotional ups and downs are a huge part of fish keeping. I think a lot of folks out there would agree with you, Amber. When you lose a fish that you just really enjoyed watching, and I had a setback like that with my 90-gallon. I lost a red spotted gold severum, a starry night, a paratilapia actually, and I just really, really enjoyed those fish and really hated losing them. And there have been folks that have told me that after a loss, they throw in the towel, they quit fish keeping, and one of the comments that I love hearing is that when people say they watched one of my videos and they left fish keeping for a variety of reasons, very often related to what you're saying. They had some setbacks, they had a die off, and they watched a few videos, they got fired up again, and they got back in the hobby. That's goes right along with my intention, my goal, which is expansion of the hobby, and getting people involved, having them win at fish keeping, and but yeah, I mean, there were times I remember after I right after I had a colomaris outbreak about 4 years ago, I was like this close to just saying, you know what, maybe I just need to hang it up for a little while, kind of catch my breath, take a new direction, and I'm really glad I didn't. I'm really glad I got back on the horse, but anyway. Alec just lost a dog. Alec, sorry to hear that, Alec. Losing a dog is devastating, very devastating. And I've had a couple of my beagles pass from old age, and I've got one right now that's pretty old. So sadly, they don't live that long, and when they go, it's a big setback. It's a punch in the gut when you lose one of your furry friends. Let's see. Just wanted to ask you. Let's see. Raymond, Raymond, I would like to defer your question. Raymond Peteritis, is it Peteritis? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Just wanted to ask if you feel that I think you don't mean apistols, apistos. That spell correct doesn't know what to do with apistos. Two of them, and 7 German blue rams and 7 discus, not yet purchased, would be acceptable in a 125. I also include 20 to 25 tetras and 8 corridoras, 8 fancy guppies. I'd like to defer that question to folks here on the chat who have more experience with that kind of fish. It sounds like a beautiful combination, and it's a lot of fish. Yeah, I love rams and discus together. Apistos are beautiful fish as well. The corys will help, help with some of the your cleanup crew. But I'm not sure about all those tetras. Maybe a bunch of neon tetras. Maybe that'd be a pretty thing if they're schooling. A group of schooling fish will look nice. But why don't you folks jump in and help Raymond here with this question, and I'll put it here at the top of the message, at the top of the board here. I'll pin it, and you folks can take a look at it and maybe help him out. All right, so GP, let me see, Frankie. Oh, by the way, John Wallace, who talks about cleaning the front panel, I did a video on a cleaning product, and it was about maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and why you need this for your aquarium. It was one of those little magnetic scrubbers. Now, the one concern that seemed to come up the most was that the blade could scratch or create micro abrasions or scratches on the glass. So I just want you to know that I swapped out the blade and used the plastic blade replacement, because it comes with 2 blades. It comes with a metal, I imagine it's aluminum, or a metal blade, and it comes with a plastic one. So I put the plastic one on, and I found out that the plastic one works just as effectively as the metal one. So I think it'll be just more peace of mind to have that plastic blade on there. It scrapes off the algae, takes the algae right off the glass, and I think it's going to be much less likely to scrape up or scratch or create micro abrasions. Certainly never use the metal if you have an acrylic tank. And also, one other thing about that magnetic scraper, if you do run it near the line, the substrate line, like if you're getting algae that's real close to the bottom, it will pull up and hold onto some substrate. So if that happens, you've got to pull it out and take it to a sink and scrape it out. Like get any sand or anything that might have gotten caught up in it, get it out of there, because that will scrape the tank. So just a couple things after I've been using it for a few weeks, it will hold on to sand if you really kind of go into the sand when you're trying to get some algae that is right along the top of the substrate. You want to get in there deep and kind of scrape it. You might pick up some sand on the cleaning surface, the nylon cleaning surface. So you got to pull that thing out and clean all that sand out before you use it again. And the plastic blade works just fine. So just a couple pointers on that magnetic cleaner. What was the name of the company? Nigugu? It was made by a company called Nigugu. One of you can put a link to that video on, I think it was called Why You Need to Have This, or 3 Reasons Why You Need to Have This for Your Aquarium. I will say that cleaning the glass without having to open up the lids or remove the covers, just doing a quick little touch-up using that product is a heck of a lot easier for me. However, if you want to have that real deep clean where you get every little bit of mulm and that, every little bit of film, you might need to go with a harder cleaning using something with a handle to put a little more force on it. But anyway, just a little follow-up on that. Jeff Riddell. Looks like he got a blue fish that he thought was a blue Ochart. Turned out it was a Mabuna. And it took a chunk out of my Oscars and terrorized my other and destroyed my... Wow. Well, that's a fish story that you should go back and just tell them. Take the fish back and go, come on, man. You sold me what should have been a peaceful fish, and the guy was a nightmare, and they should refund your money and apologize. I mean, that's just not okay. Here. Just be glad he didn't sell you an Aratus. If he'd sold you an Aratus, he probably would have, even though he's only an inch long, 2 inches, he would have killed your Oscar. Just a tear of a fish. David Glass. Hey, David, comes through with a super chat. Hi, Ben. I lost 3 out of 6 of my cichlids. I did hit me pretty good. I almost lost a desire for fish keeping. Yeah, I'll tell you, all we can do is get back on the horse. It's easy just to give up. And it's funny, it's not even so much the money. I mean, maybe if you had a fish that you paid $100 for, or you had some saltwater fish that you paid a fortune for, and you had a massive die-off, financially that would also be devastating. You had that extra. But, it's very seldom that I think of the money when a fish dies. I just have the... you just hate to see it. You just hate to see it. And especially if you have grown fond of that fish, if it's become one of your favorites. And there are certain fish that you just get attached to. There's just something about them. The way they come to the glass and greet you all the time. And that red-spotted gold severum I was talking about, I used to come down the stairs and he would run to the top of the tank on the corner and watch me come down the stairs. And he was just a very personable, very interactive fish, like a little fish, like a fish buddy, a water pup. And so, yeah, you can get some, that's not a good, I feel you. I get it. Frankie Fingers. I hate it, but I don't switch from sand to gravel. Now, one of the reasons that sand can get in your filters, of course, is that the fish pick it up and spit it. And one thing that you can do, for those of you that still have sand, is you can put some larger rocks around the bottom of the intake. Just create a little perimeter. So if this is the intake of your filter, and let's say this much space between the bottom of the filter and the bottom of your the substrate, put some river rock here in this area. And that way they're going to be a little bit less likely to spit directly into the filter. So I found that can help. And also, you know, using the pre-filters, the covers that go over the intake, that can also help. I found that also helps. So I have sand in all of my tanks, and it'll be interesting when I open up my FX6 to service it, probably every 6 months, right? I'll open up the FX6. It'll be interesting to see if I have some sand in there. And in this tank, I have the rocks. The rocks in the 210 are situated near the intake, the sponge pre-filter. So sort of cutting down on the likelihood of fish spitting out the sand into the intake. Even though I tell you, cichlids will pick up sand and carry it a long way and then dump it. And sometimes they'll snow on top of another fish, which is kind of I'm not sure if they're doing it on purpose, but it's kind of funny when you see it happen. So let's go ahead and look some more here at the chat. Firegate, looks like Firegate 13. I have 3 fancy goldfish in a 30-gallon aquarium filtering with a Sun 703B. Yeah, you know, goldfish, depending also on how much you're feeding them. But yeah, goldfish can be pretty messy. I remember Corey over at the Aquarium Co-op. He had that giant aquarium behind him with those goldfish, and yeah, you could tell they were just messy fish. And yeah, you've got to do your water changes. You have to vacuum, and you have to do the work for sure. Joe, sand absolutely scratches my glass. Now I only use plastic blade inch from some. Yep, that is the number one way that our tanks get scratched. I mean, Evan Alexander, IFG, one day told me that he had a fish that was picking up rocks. He had some pebbles in his tank, and one of the fish was picking them up and hitting the glass with the pebbles and creating abrasions in the tank. He couldn't figure out why he had these marks on the inside of his tank. And one day, you know, he caught this fish, and I would joke with him about his fish was writing him a message or trying to write graffiti on the inside of the tank. So. Okay, there we go. John Larson says that guppies will get eaten by cichlids. Yeah, when cichlids get big, those guppies will start to look. They'll start to look tasty. Those guppies will start to look tasty to those discus if they get that large. Yeah, Kelly D, who knows? Maybe they're like, hey man, I'm gonna spit on you now. Cichlids can be nasty, you know. All right. Any more questions? Go ahead and share them. And thank you, Firegate 13. I appreciate that. I wouldn't go as far as saying legend, but there are a lot more popular channels on YouTube that you are probably closer to what you would call legend, I think. Arshish Manekji? Arshish Manekji? Did I butcher that or did I say it okay? Water changes I do regularly, but so many YouTube videos of naturally reducing nitrates, but nothing worked for me. Yeah, people talk about adding a lot of plants, and I guess plants in a very, very lightly stocked aquarium, and maybe some pothos and swords, Amazon swords. Some of the plants that are known for being like real ammonia eaters. It's the ammonia that they tend to consume, and naturally that reduces your nitrates in a very lightly stocked tank. But if you are at all well stocked, and if you're feeding them a fair amount of food, you're going to get nitrates, and it's going to be really hard to get away from water changes. And I, of course, have the deep substrates, and I'm waiting. It's been months now, and I'm waiting to see if these substrates are helping. With my 210-gallon, they seem to be helping. And that's probably my heaviest stock tank. Of course, it has the greatest amount of water movement, largest amount of water volume, but it tends to stay around 20 parts per million. We'll see if that changes after I move these fish in, so I'll have more fish in there. And but yeah, it seems like you can't quite get away from good old-fashioned water changes. Well, I'll give you someone's asking for an update. Gene, is it Tobias? What's the update on the tanks behind you? Well, I'll give you an update of all the tanks. How's that? And and someone is asking on my filter socks. I have the filter socks on my sump. You have two socks, and one of them is the primary, and that one gets the greatest water flow, and that has a thicker sock. They're both 4-inch across, 14 inches deep, but the primary gets changed once, sometimes twice a week. The secondary, the one that gets less water flow, is changed once a week, maybe every 9 days, but certainly at least one, let's say once a week for one and twice a week for the primary. And I have another set, so I just pull them off and put the fresh ones on, and then I rinse the old ones, and they're working great. They're working really well. So let's go around and check out the tanks. Let me turn off some of the lights so you can see the tank a little better. Dark and spooky in here. Perfect for Halloween. So here's the 220, and right back. 220 is doing well. I'm playing around with lighting. I have one light near the front, and that one's about 40% white, 30% red, 30% blue. And then I have two lights in the back, and those are just like 20% blue and 20% red. And so it's giving you that look that you see. One of the reasons I like this sort of subdued lighting, and I'm going to be releasing a video on lighting, like on different types of lighting options. But one of the reasons I like this subdued look like the fish will come into view and out of view. You'll see them. They'll sort of be highlighted in the middle, and then they'll disappear. And it gives some fish a little extra security hiding in the back corners. So it kind of gives you another sort of line of sight apart from the plants. It also does a very unusual coloring on the plants, which is, I think it's kind of cool. And of course, these are artificial plants from Elite Cichlids, who I talked about earlier in the video. If you tuned in late, when you watch the replay, please watch the beginning of the video where I talk about Elite Cichlids. There's a plant in the middle of this 210-gallon. Sorry about the angle, but there's a plant in the middle there called a pearl. It's in the exact middle behind the green one. There's a pinkish plant in that middle bunch. It's called a pearl. That is named after the mom that passed away at Elite Cichlids, and that's a plant that they're offering as they close out the store. They're offering that pearl plant, which I think is just a beautiful plant. It has the pinkish white and hues. It's just a very pretty plant. Come over here. Let's take a look at these are the larger African cichlids that are nearing the end of their quarantine period and are going to be transferred probably within the next week or two over to the 210. Unfortunately, the one of them didn't survive. One of the Protomelus didn't survive the when I put them through their regimen for treating them for parasites. The Taiwan reef, unfortunately, didn't make it through that treatment. The other fish seem to be doing well. They're eating, they're acting normal, they're active. So I'd say another week or two, maybe a couple weeks, I'll be moving them, and they're all larger than any fish I have in the 210. So that's going to be a very interesting experiment to move new fish into a tank full of established fish, but the new fish larger than the established fish. It's going to be very interesting to watch what happens. Now, just as a side note, and you know, hindsight is always 20/20, but I kind of wish, looking back on it, I kind of wish that I had just pulled that Taiwan reef out and given him a salt bath. Just used a little bit of Epsom salt, maybe even some Fritz salt, and because I've had a lot of success doing that, but I figured since it was a new batch of fish, I would treat the whole tank. And maybe that didn't give him the constipation relief that he needed. And so he got a little wide in the tummy, and then he flipped over. So that stuff happens, and that's why you keep them in quarantine until you're convinced that everyone is good. Let's look at the other tank here and get me out of the way. Here's our South and Central American tank. Now, some of you were kind enough to explain to me what a dither fish is. Some of you were shocked that I didn't know what a dither fish was. It's not something you think about when you have African cichlids. But the fish in this tank, I think the Nicaragua cichlids are going to go over to the 90, and I think they'll serve as a type of dither fish in there. Maybe keep the Surimanensis from continuing to nip each other to death. But the rest of the fish are going to stay in this 55 until they put on more size. Certainly the green terrors are just little teeny guys. Fortunately, they're not being harassed by the other fish. If I put them in the tank with the African cichlids, they would have been lunch. All the other fish are doing great. Electric blue acaras, red spotted gold severums, chocolates. They're all doing great. And yes, ditherfish is a distraction fish. So the Nicaragua cichlids, I hope, will be a distraction fish in the 90-gallon. Here is the 90-gallon. And as you can see, the AC Heckeleyes are getting very, very large. The Vieja is becoming ginormous. The Surimanensis are continuing to nip each other. And not sure if I'm just going to add more of them or just try the ditherfish. The ditherfish option. The AC Heckeleyes are gorgeous. I'd love to get some albino AC Heckeleyes. That's one of my unicorn fish I'd love to get someday. You can see that Jack Dempsey. That Jack Dempsey is just an amazing fish. Always changing how he looks. There's the Vieja, right smack center. Just a beautiful fish, just kind of hangs out. Doesn't really bother anybody. Compared to my African cichlid tank, this is a pretty peaceful tank, even with the Surimanensis picking each other to death. It's still a pretty peaceful tank. On. There's the update. Hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that answered the question of how are the tanks doing. And let me see if there's any other comments here. Looks like we're right on the hour here. All right. So I want to thank you folks actually for those of you who super chatted. Thank you so much for that. And thank you everybody for joining me today on Saturday. I know it's the weekend. You could be out having fun and partying, and yet here you are in my garage. Part of the garage gang. Now, officially the garage gang is actually the Patreon, but you know what? You're all garage gang honorary members, I guess. So thank everybody for sitting in. You are appreciated. Your support and your interaction in these live streams is very much enjoyed by me. And thank you, everybody. And I hope to see you next Saturday for next Saturday's live stream. Not sure what the topic will be. I usually come up with it on Friday. Whatever crosses my mind. If you folks have a particular topic you would like for me to talk about, just go ahead and share it in the chat. And what I'll do is I'll look at it. If it's something that I feel knowledgeable on or something that I'm very curious about and can do some research on and share something of value with you, I'll go ahead and talk about it in the upcoming live stream. All right? I'm always looking for new topics, always enjoy them. And that's it for now. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. You're the best. Thank you to my moderators also. Forgot to say. Best moderators on YouTube. Bye-bye.